Hey, I'm Bobby Pinn of Rock Junket, New York City's original rock and roll walking tours, and I'm here today on Alien Nation, and we're going to do a little rock and roll walk through New York's East Village. I couldn't think of a better place to kind of start the walking tour than the building that is right behind me. It's 115 East 9th Street, and it's called the St. Mark, and it's the former New York City home of Joey Ramone. On a lot of show riders, Joey Ramone wanted Yoo-Hoo chocolate drinks served backstage, which I thought was kind of cool. You know, it confused the promoters a bit, but when asked why, he said, well, hey man, Yoo-Hoo's the quintessential American drink. I want to show you guys a very cool photo. This is a photo of the original band, of course. Dee Dee, Joey, Tommy, and Johnny on the G train that they picked up in Forest Hills, and they are taking it to the Bowery, right below CBGB's on Houston Street for a gig. And, you know, we never think about them getting back and forth in the early days by subway, but this is how the band kind of got from Queens to the Bowery, and I thought it was a great shot. And I always thought of the Ramones as kind of an original do-it-yourself style band, and this picture, I think, shows a lot of that, also a lot of perseverance. Plus, it shows that Dee Dee and Johnny didn't have guitar cases back then, or at least they chose not to bring them. But in the case of Johnny Ramone, at least he brought a Macy's shopping bag, and you know, and those cats were there like, hey ho, let's go play. So I thought it was a great picture. Hey, we're in Alphabet City right now, right across from Tompkins Square Park, and we are standing in front of the Niagara Bar, which is a very cool bar here in Alphabet City, partially owned by Jesse Malin from D-Generation, and I believe Jesse just had a solo album released a couple of months ago, so you guys may want to check that out. But we're standing in front of the Joe Strummer mural and memorial here on the Niagara Bar wall, and it's pretty interesting, you know, how it got set up. Joe passed away in 2002, and unfortunately never did get a chance to complete the video for the Redemption song, which was, you know, the Mescaleros cover version of Bob Marley's single. And you know, out of a little respect and the fact that they were good friends of Joe Strummer, the owners of the bar decided to pay a little respect to the Clash and the Mescaleros, and also finished the video for Joe Strummer. And you can see that they actually did the background in 3 different colors, red, yellow, and green, to also honor Bob Marley, because it was the Redemption single that Strummer and the Mescaleros did cover. But if you're ever wandering around Alphabet City, want to pay a little respect to Strummer and the Clash, stop by Niagara Bar right here on Avenue A and East 7th. The building behind me is 96 and 98 St. Mark's Place. I want you guys to take a look at it and kind of visualize your record collection. And it's probably one of the most famous albums and album covers of all time. What you're looking at is Led Zeppelin's Physical Graffiti building. And the year was 1975, and they had just created their very own record label called Swan Song, and of course they wanted Physical Graffiti to be the first record out on their own label. So the album kept getting delayed and delayed and delayed. Unfortunately, Led Zeppelin had to put another band's album out first on Swan Song, and that band was Bad Company. Led Zeppelin's Physical Graffiti came out second. And if you're a big fan of the Rolling Stones and you remember their 1981 album Tattoo You, they had a single on there called Waiting on a Friend. Mick Jagger sitting on a set of steps with a bunch of Rastafarians waiting for his friend Keith Richards. Boom! It's the steps right behind me, man, is where they kind of sat. And then they went to the St. Mark's Bar and Grill right at the corner and ended up shooting the video for Waiting on a Friend. But once again, a classic album cover right here in New York, New York. Hey, I'm Bobby Pinn. We're in New York's historic East Village, and we're on the corner of 2nd Avenue and St. Mark's Place, and behind me is the world-famous Gem Spa. One of my favorite bands was the New York Dolls, and the New York Dolls' very first album cover was from their self-titled debut, which was produced by Todd Rundgren, and the photographer on this was Toshi. They actually found this couch on their way over to the photo shoot that day, and the band kind of carried it up to the loft, and they ended up shooting this photo for about $900. The back cover, though, is what they were really kind of struggling with and didn't know what to do. An upcoming photographer at that time, Roberta Bailey, kind of suggested to them that, hey man, you guys hang on 2nd Avenue and 8th Street, much like the rest of us. So she ended up bringing the New York Dolls down in front of the Gem Spa, and you got the back of the album cover of the Dolls' debut. Hey man, with rock and roll, you got to have fashion. And right behind me is a store called Trash and Vaudeville, which is a store that's been around for about 30 years here on St. Mark's Place. They opened back in 1977. But this is actually a 19th century townhouse that you guys are looking at. And in the 50s and 60s, it used to be an improvisational theater called the Bridge Theater. And obviously they did a lot of improv plays, and I understand the theater got shut down one time during a play when one of the actors burned the American flag on stage. So, you know, maybe that wasn't cool back then, and they shut the theater down for a couple of weeks. But also in the late 1960s, Yoko Ono held a lot of her happenings right here. Certainly over the years, a lot of celebrities have shopped in there, including Joey Ramone and Iggy Pop, Joan Jett, Keith Richards, etc. And, you know, they just got some cool clothing lines, man. If you want to pick up that shirt with skulls on it, or a dress with skulls or dice, it's certainly the place to go, man. But you can do it all here at Trash and Vaudeville right on St. Mark's. And behind me is the Birdhouse. Charlie Parker's former New York City residence, pretty much during the height of his career from 1950 to 54. At the age of 27, he has collaborated with Dizzy Gillespie on a new type of jazz, which critics didn't really enjoy too much right off the bat. They dubbed it bebop, but after listening to songs like Coco a bit more, they knew that those guys had created something very special. This is actually a 1849 Gothic-style row house, and he lived here with his wife and 3 children, right on the ground floor here in between the 2 plaques from 50 to 54. The city of New York in the 1990s recognized his greatness and contributions to jazz and New York, and they actually renamed Avenue B, which is what we're standing on right now, Charlie Parker Place. They made the building a historical landmark too, so it can't be torn down. And each fall, I believe this year it's going to be the first weekend in September during the Howe Festival. On the 3rd day of the Howe Festival, which celebrates the arts and creativity of the East Village, it's going to be the Charlie Parker Jazz Fest. We're on Avenue B, 2 doors down from Charlie Parker's place. We're actually in front of the Christadora House. One of my favorite punk rockers actually moved into this place during the 1990s, Iggy Pop. Iggy lived in this apartment building for about 6 years, and I know that he loved the East Village and performing in New York. This is an album called Avenue B, and of course Iggy recorded a song. The single was called Avenue B. It was an interesting album, and if you don't have it in your collection, it is something quite different for Iggy's solo work. He actually hired a jazz trio from New York to perform on it called Medeski, Martin, and Wood. Certainly an interesting album. It was a great tour. I checked that out 3 times. And very rarely do you get to see Iggy Pop sitting down on stage singing, and it was one of the few tours that I did get to witness that. As always, stroll your neighborhoods of New York and enjoy what it offers.